Eid on Grandma Porch. This year's Eid home is the only destination. No train ticket, no large suitcases in the car trunk, no itinerary for visiting tourist spots, only the yard of the house remains faithfully adorned with mango trees. The sound of the neck porch chicken and the tempting aroma of rendang from the old kitchen, all of that is due to one simple thing. Grandma can no longer go far. For the past 2 years, Grandma has started to sit longer in her rocking chair, preferring to watch the sky from the porch rather than walk to the small shop down the alley. Her legs are weak, her knees are fragile, and her breath sometimes becomes labored even after climbing just 3 steps. This year, the doctor advised against traveling far, and celebrating Eid at home became the family's unanimous decision. At first, I thought this would be boring Eid. There were no exciting moments on the road, no photos with new background, and no funny stories about getting lost. But slowly, those days turned into small lessons about the slow rhythm of life and how togetherness doesn't always have to be fast or far. The preparation for Eid began 2 days before the big day. Mama started getting busy in the kitchen, preparing the ingredients for opor, sambal goreng kentang, and cookies. I helped chop onions and peel eggs, while from the living room, Grandma sat watching with gentle eyes, occasionally giving small instructions. Grandma's hands are not as strong as they used to be, but her memory remains sharp. She still remembers the right amount of salt for the pumpkin soup and when to add the coconut milk. The morning of Takbir arrived peacefully. The air outside is still cold as the echoes of Takbir resonate from the mosque near the house. There was no commotion at the terminal, no hurried dragging of suitcase, only the sound of spoon touching plate and the soft footsteps toward the bathroom. We performed the Eid prayer at the small mosque at the end of the alley, then returned home and began the most sacred event, the ritual of seeking forgiveness. I sat in front of my grandmother. Her hands are thin but warm, her grip slow yet firm. When my forehead touched the back of her hand, I felt like I was touched by time. There was a flood of memories that flowed from the skin to the heart about childhood running in this yard. Fairy tale songs always told by her during blackouts and my crying the first time I filled my bike. Carry with sweet and hug. There was no long physical journey that day, but our hearts took a journey back to the time of every Eid we had spent together. The days that followed passed slowly. That really is the beauty of it. Every morning I sit on the porch with my grandmother to watch birds perched and on the power lines or the neck porch children reading their bicycle. She doesn't talk too much, but his presence is full. In other words, I started writing again, not for assignments, not for work, for himself. The quiet mornings, the smell of jasmine tea, and Grandma's slow, yet still steady, nail footfalls. On that day, my cousins were around. We filled the living room with stories and laughter, and we had food together. It was a warm, homemade rice meal, coupled with laughter, and there was not any grand party. Grandma sat right in the middle with her soft smile and eyes sweeping over us one by one as if she wanted to immortalize us all in her memory. Night would find us playing cards or watching old movies. At times, part of the heavy rain that fell on the roof above our heads would cause power outage, but only for short moments, and we would sit in dim candlelight listening to the rain's patter mixed with the sound of our family narrating stories. That's when I realized that this place is not merely built of bricks and floor tiles, but it is also a history about our family, of everything we have gone through together. It taught me this Eid that silence does not mean emptiness. Meaningful days can also be spent without going out and posting one's photo on social media. I started noticing all the little things I used to miss, the tick of the wall clock, the drum vibrating when the wind touched the curtains, or my grandmother's smile when she tasted the cake I made. One hot afternoon, as sun started dimming and the sky became orange, I sat in the yard. Grandma was in her rocking chair wearing a batik shawl. I saw the wrinkles in her face, the lines of time. People look at the sky and then close their eyes for a moment. Maybe she's reminiscing about past Eid celebration, when this house was still filled with the voices of father and mother, when she could still cook all the dishes herself when her children, including my mother, were still running around in this yard. In that moment, I didn't feel like I had lost something, but I had rediscovered things long forgotten. That celebrating it is not about how far we go, but how deeply we are present. That home, with all its limitations, can be the most precious place for gratitude. And I know one day when this house is no longer as lively as it is now, when times move further away, this story will still live on. Not because I have traveled, but because I have truly lived. In the days that followed, the soft cadence of home lulled the soul, transforming into an oasis within the maddening rush of life. Each morning awakened to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the coconut palms, bathing the yard with warmth and golden hue. In the mellow light, life comes anew, simmering blindingly beautiful in that which is mundane. The laughter of my younger cousins rang in the air, their curious faces peeking around from corners, not aware of the time gone by. On one such morning, as I prepared breakfast of sorts for everyone, I recalled some of Grandma's story about it during hers. There was a certain magic in how she would tell the story of her childhood when it meant wearing the finest silk clothes, topped with the most beautiful of design and colors. There I was listening with rapt attention, almost picturing her as a little girl, eyes shining bright with a thrill and her fingers tracing around the delicate embroidery on her long dress, lost in the ecstasy of waiting. Later that afternoon, I sat across her with my notebook, ready to write down her story. "Grandma," I asked, "what was it like for you?" Her eyes sparkled with the memories and danced as she sat up slightly in her old chair. The atmosphere of their village was joyous, where families were busy putting their house in order and neighbors visited one another. It was the time of communal happiness, and the aroma of the special 8 dishes ketupat and rendang mingled with laughter and the sounds of children in the street. While writing down her words, I feel as though I were not just chronicling memories, but one with our family story, slice of joy moving across the age. "We did Quena start together," she said, smiling with nostalgia. "I always told your mother the secret of the pastry. She was always sneaking bites when she told no one was looking." I chuckled inwardly, imagining my mother being a little brat. "I think I would like to learn the secret too," I said, feeling rather inquisitive. That evening, just before sunset, Grandma and I were over in the kitchen again, getting ready to make Quena star with her instruction. The buttery aroma flooded the room as we rolled out the dough into tiny stars, brushing them with egg wash in hopeful anticipation of a golden color. As my cousin peeled into the house, the longing intensified, each one looking to lend a helping hand to our kitchen endeavors. The sun was kitchen under Grandma's watchful eyes was filled with louder glee that made every tiny morsel of magic happened as the Patrice rose. It was during that night when we finally settled together around the table, and our rewards were the centerpiece. The golden Quena star, delicate and fragrant, served as a reminder of the ties being bind us. Each bite was reminiscent of Grandma's stories, preserving not only flavor but also the essence of our shared history that warmed us from within. With every crumb, we savored not just the taste, but the treasure of family bonding and tradition that held us close together. That is as it worked its magic in our heart. My relationship with Grandma deepened in unusual aspect. I came to learn not only about her childhood dreams and aspirations, but also about the sacrifices that were made by her in establishing our family. One evening, as we reminisced under the canopy of stars, she murmured softly, her voice a barely audible whisper, "You know, my dear, life is much like these stars above us. Everyone tells a story, a memory. I too was once a young girl with dreams just like you." This simple statement brought new perspective into my life. I realized that ties can bind generations not with epic adventures and great travel, but with quiet conversation about their experiences in life. It was here, on this porch, under the expanse of the night sky, that I began to see my grandma not only as a matriarch but also as an individual, someone who had a life filled with on vibrant past. Days turned into weeks, and the festive spirit lingered long after it had passed. I, of course, continued to write not just tragic memories of celebrating, but also impart wisdom of my grandma that were retold. Stories that were somewhat silly, some that stung, echoed days spent with her, writing me that bridge through which I could all but step into her world, meanwhile weaving my narrative. Every day new portion of the story opened themselves up to my discovery in the small home. Children joy us exuberance, those gentle conversation over tea, the evening sound of cicadas, the warmth of the on our skin. I become increasingly aware of the depth of beauty that sits dormant in everyday life. Moments, a place, insignificance beckoning to be cherished now. It was one of those times when I was helping Grandma out in her garden, when we planted saplings, new mango guava, and even a start fruit tea. The patch of land used to be wild, disenchanted soil turning into a consecrated place for life to comfort, flowering in the company of our memories. That every moment I start digging in the soil, the gentle drum of life pulls under my fingertips, a reminder that most things are about nurture and big growth is an outcome. With each plant we nurtured, I realized we were not simply cultivating a garden, but fostering a legacy that would endure beyond us. I envisioned future generations gathering in the shade of the mango trees, sharing stories like we did, enveloped in laughter and laugh, under the still pale light of the eve. As I sat on the porch, my eyes were lower, turned to Grandma, whose hands have now withered from life, but is wise. Thank you for everything, I whispered as I felt a surge of gratitude emerging from within. You have given me so much more than stories. You have given me a sense of belonging. She smiled, bright fingering in the edging features of her face. And you, my dear, remind me of that continuous riot of colors, even as we work in the garden of life. That echoed long after, since every second with our loved ones, particularly those casually taken for granted, a special significance. It had come and gone, but lesson learned, bonds built, and love shared will remain for the age in my heart as a guidance through all its ups and downs. In the coming years, I hope to tell these children about all this on the porch, to remind them that Grandma again would not be with them but would continue retreating herself with our faces and tell us that the real presence goes beyond distance and love goes beyond time. For the true celebration is not about being somewhere and making it big, but rather about weaving the tapestries of memories within the walls of home for relationships that last a lifetime.